essentially this gets to a question of mass deportations, right? Right. How in the West German government's view, it's the year 1983, how do you get rid of a population of people that you don't want in your country anymore? And there's an absolutely crucial document. Chancellor Helmut Kohl, who became chancellor in 1982,
Yeah.
he has a meeting with Margaret Thatcher, the British Prime Minister. And they're talking about how to deal with immigrants in both of their countries because Britain had a large immigrant population at the time. And Helmut Kohl says, I want to reduce the number of Turks by half, by 50%. How do, you know, I want to get rid of half of the Turks in the country. And Chancellor Kohl was, from the, you know, Christian Democratic Party, centrist party, and he's even saying, I need to get rid of half of the Turks in the country because they can't assimilate.
Wow.
So West German policymakers and Kohl's regime are trying to figure out what to do. You can't just mass deport people who came here legally as guest workers.
Yeah.
You can't just do mass deportations, right? So they devise a law that was a really, really controversial law that I write a lot about in my book in 1983. It's the law for the promotion of the voluntary return of foreigners. And I just call this the remigration law because it's kind of easier to understand that
Yeah.
way. And with this law, the West German government decided that they were going to offer guest workers what they called a remigration premium or remigration assistance of 10,500 Deutschmarks to leave the country with their entire family. So essentially, their solution, instead of doing mass deportations, is to pay people to leave, to financially incentivize them to leave the country.
What year was this?
1983
1983. First of all, 10,500 Deutschmarks. That's not that much.
is really not that much. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a couple months, it's a couple months wages. It's really not all that much. But it was a pretty, it functioned as a kind of strong financial incentive for a lot of people. So there were a lot of Turks who had wanted to leave for a long time. They just wanted to go back to their home country, but they hadn't really made the decision yet. But this money helped push them over the edge,
Yeah.
right? So,
Yeah.
well, now's a good time for me to go back. What also was an important factor was that a lot of companies in the early 1980s wanted to get rid of Turkish workers as well, because there's also economic crisis in the early 1980s. So companies would often add severance packages to that.